And it's great to have you back again. I know the last time you were on, we went through your journey. We went through an experience you had with the paranormal activity, as I would call it. Maybe you could change that for me. And it was a good experience. So, and you had a very good description about it. So that was great because it probably attracted a lot of listeners and stuff. And so we decided to have you come back on and you could share a bad experience that you've had with the energy, whatever whatever you decide to call it. You can name, you can give me that word.
Well, no. First of all, hello, John. It's lovely to be back again.
Yes.
There's no really bad experiences with these energy beings. It's our usually misunderstanding of their behaviors. Now, we all have jobs, we all have particular reasons why we're here on Earth and with the spirit guides and the lower beings, but it's their behaviors we don't understand. So this is what I'm all about, educating people about why they behave in certain ways. And I've had lots of experiences, like you said, the good ones and some that are a bit more challenging. I don't like to call them bad because they're not bad. They're just doing what they do. They're just doing what they do naturally. So working as a paranormal specialist, mostly I'm dealing with the lower vibrational beings. These are the dark and the demonic. They're just two different levels of energy. They're the two words I use. And the dark energy beings are just a bit mischievous. They just mess around in our houses. But the demonic level beings are the ones that attach to all the emotional imprints, all the traumas, things that are going on, like I talked about in the last episode. So I have a really interesting experience, a local experience, actually from the suburb that I live in. I'm not going to mention names because it's all about learning, not about shaming people. Now, there's a particular person who lives in this suburb. I have to tell you the backstory so you'll understand why this very high-ranking demonic being showed itself in my home. I'll try and keep it as short as possible. Now, this person messaged me and went, I need your help. I've got something in my house I can't get rid of. It's sort of the usual energetic issues that are in people's homes. They can't sleep. They feel like they're being followed. They feel like they're being watched. And when I went to this lady's house, because she was a local, and I thought, I'll just go for a visit. And I went and had a visit with her. Oh my gosh, her house was very energetically unstable. When I got there, I felt my usual sort of calm, grounded, relaxed self. As soon as I started to walk towards the house, I felt very, very energetically uncomfortable, like there was something going on within the property or within the home that kind of set my paranormal radar sort of on a slight edge. So she meets me at the door, and I hadn't met this person before. So it's the usual, hello, how are you? And then she started going into this great big spiel about all these things that are happening in a house. And I kind of knew then there was something more going on than just your general negative energy beings in the house causing a problem. So I spent some time with this lady, and everything that I did for her and her home and the property didn't seem to solve the problem. And the problem was that she's the problem. Her level of paranormal addiction, she used to call herself a demon slayer.
Hmm.
Now, when you're putting out that vibe out into the universe, what do you think you're going to attract to yourself and to your home? You're going to upset the probably millions or billions of these beings that are out there. You're going to upset them. They're going to come for retaliation because you're someone that's saying, oh, I slay demons and I'm going to hurt them. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. That's not my approach. I work very respectfully because what you put out is what you get back. So I treat them respectfully, and about 80% of the time, most of them are respectful back. There's always rebels that don't like what you do, and they'll try and be challenging. Now, this lady did not want change in her home. She sort of did, but she didn't. Some people, they're like, oh, I want to be this, but I only want to do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays when it suits me. Now, when you work with paranormal beings, as I know from doing it for a very long period of time, is that they don't understand time. Time doesn't exist for them. They simply are energy in our environment. So the day and night thing that we do and the 9 to 5 thing that we do doesn't apply. It's not relevant. So this lady was being barraged by these beings constantly, and everything I did kind of helped a little bit, but then she'd be back to her behaviors again. So she was constantly creating this situation of upsetting, really badly, really badly upsetting these demonic level beings who don't take kindly to being disrespected, because they will let you know. I've experienced electric shocks. That's about the level of retaliation I get, is they'll give me a zap on my legs or on my eyelids when I'm going to sleep sometimes, if I've done a house clearing job and some of them haven't liked being moved out.
So you went there prior to all this to clear it
Yes,
out the first time. Okay. And
yes. So
and that was successful?
no,
No.
I had
Okay.
to let that case go. And
Oh,
I'm getting to the reasons why I had to let it go is because she didn't want change.
yeah.
Now, the problems that were starting was that these demonic level beings were seeing me as part of her problem. So I'd inadvertently put myself right in the middle of this energy battle between this woman's will to be in charge and to be a demon slayer. And here comes Anna wanting to do the nice thing and move them out. You just go somewhere else, fix this lady's home. So within the 4 months that I spent visiting this lady, communicating emails, text messages, it was really over the top. I learned a lot about paranormal addiction from her. Is that I was getting disruptions in my home. Like I mentioned, I was getting electric shocks, which is usually a sign that something's not happy. The lights were playing up, the internet was being difficult. They like to affect our technology, our devices. It's a way of showing their unhappiness. So I was having all sorts of issues in the home. My sleep was disrupted. I was having really bad nightmares, and they were affecting my walking. Because I have a physical disability, that is a weakness for me. I'm not vulnerable mentally and emotionally because I'm quite strong that way, but they'll find a way to let you know they're not happy. So I'm sitting there emailing this lady in my kitchen where I work at my dining table. And I started to feel really unwell in the mind. Like I was a little bit off because I'd been communicating with her for a long period of time. But I started to feel like I had a really intense flu. I had a real bad cold. My head was hurting. I just felt very unwell, really strong brain fog. Just couldn't think straight. And my body was reacting with stomach aches. And I don't know what this is. Well, above my head to the right, I can only explain it as like a rip in time. There was like this ripple of energy that opened up in the wall above my head. Now, I don't drink. I don't take any medications. I'm just very normal, just very healthy. Don't need any medical, anything that might be causing hallucinations. That's why I mentioned that. So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at my laptop and I'm seeing sort of in my peripheral vision, I'm seeing this sort of energy wave in my kitchen. And I'm like, oh, what do I do with that? I don't know what to do. So I just stay calm because no point getting upset. You create hostility and anxiety and all sorts of energy food for these beings. So I'm just observing. I love observing them, seeing what's going to come next. Right. Well, what came next, I'll never forget it. I saw a very long black horn come through that ripple. Now, you could think of it as like a portal into another dimension, but I saw it as sort of like a cut, like when you cut something and you've got that space in between and all this energy was moving in and out of it. So within that space, I saw this very long black horn. Didn't see a face, but I knew, I'm like, oh, there's something coming. I need to just stay here. I need to deal with it. I reckon I've done something wrong and I'm being admonished by the dark realm for getting involved with that woman. And I was absolutely right. So I'm seeing the dark horn. All of a sudden, a cloven hoof moves through this time rip. And I start to see a leg and I'm starting to see a body. Now, it didn't come fully through because I'm like, I said out loud, okay, I get the message. I'm to move away from this lady. What she is doing is inappropriate. They don't want me involved. Partly because I work with them very respectfully and they kind of respect that. They understand that if I'm professionally employed to do the work, I do the work. I don't do it because of my ego. I don't go into people's homes and go, oh, you need a house clearing, I'm just going to do it for you. It's very professional, very ethical. They respect that. I respect them, and I'm not to be in association with people like her because she's going to have constant problems because she upsets them all the time. So this being retracted its limbs and its horn, and that time ripple just disappeared. And I'm sitting there, like there's no one else in my house. And I don't tell my family anyway, because they would just think I was nuts. I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, what just happened? And within the next 5 minutes, I sent this lady a text message. And I just said, look, I've done everything that I can possibly do for you, and I don't feel that my services are what you need. And I would suggest that you look for another paranormal person that works with what you need, and I wish you the best luck. And I had to let it go. I've only ever had 3 cases that I've had to let go, and they were all paranormal addiction, because people want change because they don't like the interaction they're getting. They want it their way. But spirits and dark beings don't do things our way. They do things their own way. So that was one of my most memorable dealings with very high ranking. And I was told to call these beings, because I've seen them since. Like we have this nodding type respect thing that goes on now if I come across them in people's homes, is that we just have this respect level now. So I don't see that lady. I don't interact with her. I don't communicate with her in any way. So I hope your listeners find that a rather unusual real life experience.
Yeah. I definitely have a few questions. So why if you're going to go help another house, right, to get rid of some paranormal activity, and you're doing it nicely in a well mannered way, right? Do you see that being that you just mentioned in that same atmosphere?
It depends on the level of energetic imprints that are in the home. I find that that level of demonic energy can be present where there's been lots of domestic violence in homes over very long periods of time, because domestic violence causes mental, emotional, and physical trauma, and there's abuse attached to it, and usually there's some sort of drug connection, or there's alcoholism attached to it as well. And those activities have very, very low vibrations, and they attract the very, what I call the high level dark energy beings. Now, when I mentioned the nod thing earlier, quite often I'll see them very early on when I'm about to do a house clearing job, because these energy beings listen to our communications. So if I'm talking to a client, say in America or England or Taiwan, it doesn't matter where it is in the world, they're monitoring, these beings monitor our communications. So whether they've got me on the red list or something, some sort of, you need to keep an eye on her because she might be trouble, I just laugh that off because I'm not trouble. I'm really quite fun, and I work with them in a very, very nice way. That these beings, if they're in homes, they will show themselves to me before I go there. And that levels up my respect level a little bit more, because I get a little bit gung-ho sometimes. You know, when you do something for a long time, you have a process that you use, and I have a particular statement I say when I'm entering a home, and sometimes I'm not as aware of my level of respect as I should be. And I might get this wave of annoyance that's kind of like a wave of energy hitting your energy field, and you go, oh, I know what I haven't done. And then I make an apology. Now, most people might be a little bit horrified about apologizing to dark or demonic level beings, but you've got to remember, they're here because they have a job. They teach us about ourselves. They're here because of the vibrations that we create. So I am up to apologizing if it's warranted, which it has been a couple of times through my house clearing work, not for things I've done so much, but things that have been said to me, and then I've been involved, like I just mentioned, and it just turns into this great big drama pot, similar to what we create as humans when everyone gets into the drama and it snowballs. So yes, these beings are interesting to observe and understand why they're here and what they do when they're here.
Mhm. Yeah. And would you consider the being that came through this portal, whatever you want to call it, right? Like a leader in a sense? Like,
Yes, yes, yes. So I wrote a book a couple of years ago called The Darkness Around Us. And I'm not educated in writing. So I was basically writing the way I talk, just educating people about paranormal beings. So in The Darkness Around Us, I define different levels of dark and demonic level beings from what I'd experienced over my 20 years. Now, the Legion Generals are about as high as you can get before you hit the big guy himself. They're like the commanders. They manage like an army. I relate it to an army because it's the only way that my brain can cope with the fact that there's all these beings all doing different things. So there's your dark energies, and then there's the fear feeders. They're the ones that you get creating the nightmares, and then they feed off what you create, you know, whether it's hostility, despair, anxiety. So they feed off that sort of energy. Then you've got the sub-commanders, which are the level below the Legion Generals. Now, this is all just from my understanding. Whether it is actually that way for them in their reality, I don't know. Haven't been there. Don't want to go there. But as a human, to explain it to other people, I said to them, I need something. I need something to be able to explain your level of energy and your level of respect that you demand, because they do kind of demand it.
it's cool. I could see what you're saying. You know, I mean, so it's kind of like the Army, the Navy, the Marines, whatever, you know, whatever
Yep.
country has, you know, all that stuff in the rankings. And then what would you call it? I guess the ones you're dealing with the most would be the people on the ground, the soldiers or whatever, right? I guess along those
Yeah,
lines.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I call the dark energy beings are the soldiers. So the dark are the mischievous ones. They're the ones that'll roam around in your house and they'll cause mischief with, you know, flickering the lights, and things might go missing, or you just have these strange little occurrences and you're like, I don't know what's going on. There's something not right. Or they're watching you in bed, standing over you, leaning over you, standing in corners. They're what I call the soldiers. So you're right with that terminology. And then you're leading up to the higher and higher and the higher rankings of these beings. Now, there's another interesting ranking of these beings. If you've got time for me to share this with your listeners today.
Yeah.
This is something that I came across in the last month. So it's very, very fresh. I don't deal a lot with black magic or curses, hexes, spells. That is totally another reality in the energy world. People who are doing occult practices, satanic practices, I generally don't deal with that. I might clear it from homes, but it's done through my house clearing process. I don't get involved in it. Well, I had a lady contact me from the United States, and I've done some work for her before, and she was associated in the past with people that did quite strong, very dark, demonic, satanic practices. like really, really, really invoking demons to go out and hurt people, creating curses and hexes and spells, and really, really not very nice stuff. Anyway, I got involved with this lady to help her with, she had a fall, which was really unusual. She had a lot of things breaking in her house. She said, look, I've got all this strange stuff happening. I think there may be a curse or some sort of black magic stuff going on. Because she said everything that was happening was really random. And it sort of came after she had an interaction with a lady, very short, brief interaction with a lady who belongs to this black magic stuff. Now, it wasn't a negative interaction. It was simply just, we humans, we do things to each other and, who knows why. So we're not going to get caught in that. Within this month that I had to unpack this curse energy, getting rid of the curse was really easy because we knew who it came from. I did my dowsing. We worked out who the curse came from, where it was located within the lady herself. It had been targeted in a specific way. I managed to work all that out. And I'm like, oh, I'm getting good at this. I'm getting good at this. My head was growing and I'm like, oh, I can do this side of the work. Well, didn't they put me in my place? Ego does not go well with these beings. So what came with the curse to this lady in the United States were 4 demonic level beings. Now, I'm not going to call, initially I thought they were demonic beings. They're actually what I call in-service beings. So if you think about it, they've been invoked to go out and do harm. They're not freelancers, which are the ones that I call your general dark or your demonic beings that are just in people's homes because of what we've created. They're what I call the freelancers. These are just terms that I've given them so I can explain it to people. So the in-service beings that came with this curse transferred to me from the client. Because what I find as an energy worker, when you're dealing with fairly high-level beings, they will come to you. It's like they're going to a new host. You remove the emotional imprints from the client, you remove that connection to the client, they're going to go somewhere. And because I'm corded to the client to do the clearing, they're going to come to me through the cording. So generally demonic beings, I'll go, okay, so what are you attached to within me? And there'll be some emotional imprint. Clear the imprint, clear something from them, give and take, away they go, back out into the environment, back to wherever they come from. Not my problem. Once I clear them, they're gone. I don't get involved in their private lives, if you want to look at it that way. So these 4 beings wouldn't go. Nothing I did would shift them. And I'm like, oh, and this was a month. This was a month of me feeling unwell in the mind. And I had to drive like a grandma because I felt like maybe I can equate it to people out there would understand these if they've had a few too many scotches and they feel a bit wobbly in the head, they can't walk straight, they feel a bit off. Well, my walking was okay, but I couldn't focus properly. So I had to drive really, really slowly. And I only went out when I had to, didn't go for any Sunday drives. So this month, I wrote so many release statements, calling on the angelic beings, calling on the Christ consciousness energy to please come now to sever all cording and all attachments to these beings. Nothing would work. Now, I don't get a lot of energetic work that starts to rile me up. I don't get angry or upset or annoyed very often. If you stay calm, you don't create emotional imprints. After a month of dealing with this, I was starting to lose my temper. And I started writing statements that were a little bit abrupt. Like, I won't use particular words because it's calling on religious icons and particular parts of those religious icons. And I don't really want to upset anybody through the podcast. So I was getting really heavy with my wording, trying to shift these beings. They wouldn't go. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. What am I going to do? Well, spoke to a lady, the curse lady, the lady that had the curse on her. She had a little bit of information, a bit of knowledge about how this stuff works. Because you've got to remember, I deal with the freelancers, not the ones in service. Totally different kettle of fish. We had a conversation. She shared a process with me that she learnt to transition spirits. And I went, oh, this is interesting. Now, it was similar to a process that I use when I transition sometimes demonic beings. They had enough of being here. They're like, I just want to go. I call it defecting. Sometimes they just want to defect. It's like they're sneaking out of the dark realm because they want to go to the light. They all come from the light anyway. And eventually they're going to get sick of what they're doing and they just want change. Just like people, we want change. So we instigate change within ourselves. So sometimes I get these beings come and they're like, do you want to go back out in the environment or do you want to transition into the healing space? And they're like, we want to go. So I go through that process. Well, I tried this process with these curse beings, as I started calling them, because they're not demonic. So you've got to remember language is really important. So I was calling them curse beings. And they went. And I was like, yay, they've gone. And then within 10 minutes, they boomeranged back again. And I went, oh, because my head cleared. I felt lighter and I felt brighter and I felt back to my normal self, back to my normal focus level. And within 10 minutes, I heard this crack in my wall, which is a story for another time because I hear them coming. They come through my environment particular ways. And I'm like, I'm not going to get involved in that. Whatever that is, just needs to wait because I'm in the middle of a job for a client. You just need to wait out there and I'll see to you later. Nope, in they come. It's like, boom. So it was like they were on a bungee cord because, to cut all that long stuff short, these beings didn't want to be in service anymore. And the vibe out there, wherever it is in the dark realm, is that you go and see people like Anna who can help you transition into the afterlife. Now, I needed to have that conversation with the lady. It's interesting how this all works, is that the universe will put cases in my way. I'll do the work and there'll be a problem. I'll sort out the problem because there's more cases coming that have that same situation. So what I learned from that month is that in-service beings, remember, they're from the dark, what I call the dark magic realm. It's like the outer suburb of the dark realm, totally different. When people summon demons, they're not summoning freelancers. They're summoning those that have been enslaved, is the word they gave us when I spoke with the lady in America. We had a conversation with them. It was really fascinating. They told us they were enslaved, they were shackled, they'd been trapped into doing this work, they were stuck, they couldn't get out, they didn't like it anymore. Just like people, when we don't want to do things or we've been put in a situation, we just try and find a way out. Well, I was the way out for these particular beings, but I didn't know it until we worked out the process. So now, quite happily, if I get these magic beings coming to me and I can't shift them, I'm like, I don't know why you're here, because I don't have particular cases at the moment with clients that have curses attached to them. But because the word is out there, I'm getting these random in-service beings popping into my house. And I'm like, they won't go, they won't go. Ah, so are you in service is what I ask through my pendulum. And I get a yes. So they're understanding the vibration of the words that I'm saying. They're not the freelancers. They're the in-service beings. Now, I don't know if these beings understand English. You know, I don't speak any other languages. I can't do a comparison. I did a whole episode on that in my podcast. I think they're attracted to the vibration of what we say and whether these words put out a particular vibration that they understand. I don't question it. I don't judge it. It works. So that's what I go with. But these beings now, they'll come, I'll go through my process, away they go. So I learned something new in the last month, that there aren't just your freelancers, your freelancing dark beings doing their thing. There are actually dark beings who have been trapped into service as part of black magic, occult practices. So I thought your listeners might like to hear that new thing that I learned recently.
It's great. I appreciate sharing that. Yeah, they're doing something that they don't care to do, right? You know, they're being forced to do it and you're the outlet, you know? So that's good. You learn something new and you can carry that out as they come to you or you run into them or whatever it is, right? You know, that's awesome. I do appreciate you sharing both stories that you had for us today. That it was great. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I'm a wealth of stories and I
Yeah.
remember every single one of them. I don't remember a lot of things, but my paranormal experiences are something that just stays with me forever.
Yeah, no, it was great, and I'll have everything attached to this episode, just like I did with the last one. So whoever's listening to this can follow your podcast or reach out to you for whatever reason. And yeah, thank you. I appreciate you coming back on.
That's great. It was wonderful speaking with you again, John.
Absolutely. All right, take care.